So Taddeo thinks that what makes information warfare different and such a radical departure from traditional warfare is transversality. And so she uses um, three respects in which she thinks that information warfare entails this notion of transversality. One thing she talks about is environmental transversality. She says, now digital non-physical weapons can affect and disrupt not just other digital things, so it's not just computers dueling it out, but also physical objects. So think about a virus that takes over computer programming hardware in a nuclear reactor and can change how things are working. Well, presumably it could make the reactor explode. Or think about software that gets into a system, a town's water supply system, and it can change the varying levels of chemicals that go into the water supply and end up poisoning people. So it transverses digital and physical. The boundaries between those two things get blurred, and that's an important difference. Taddeo thinks. She also thinks there's transversality occurs with respect to which agents and what kinds of things are involved in warfare now. So she talks about ontological status. She says, hey, look, humans are one kind of being, and robots, technology is another kind of being. Drones, viruses, tanks, stuff like that. And they can play equal roles, even though they're different kinds of beings. And if it takes the human to program the thing, but then the thing goes off and does stuff on its own. She also says that social status, civilian versus military, those lines are blurred. If somebody's a skillful civilian, they can design, launch viruses, they can do denial of services attacks. And so what counts as civilian and military might change. So this raises some questions. Think about civilians and civilian institutions that are responsible for combat actions. So take Google, for example. Google is designing robots, and they hope that they intend for the robots to be used for combat purposes, and they intend to sell them to the military. And so is Google now a justified target in a war? Or think about the people working for Google and working in the robotics department. Are they a justified target? We can also think about is it the people writing code for Google that goes into the machines that they're going to sell to the military? The lines between civilian and military are blurred. And does that mean you can target civilian food supply chains, networks of computers? Next, she says that information warfare is different, and transversality occurs with respect to different modes of combat. So in traditional warfare, it's just bloody and violent. That's just how it is. And as we've seen, information warfare can be that way too. But she says, here's a respect in which it's very different. Here's a respect in which it's something new. Information warfare can be soft and nonviolent. You could do something like a denial of service attack. And while that can harm people in the real world, in the physical world, it can also not harm anybody, but just be disruptive. Just keep people from being able to do something. And then now we can give her final definition, her revised definition of information warfare. Information warfare is the use of ICTs within an offensive or defensive military strategy endorsed by a state and aiming at the immediate disruption or control of the enemy's resources, and which is waged within the informational environment and with agents and targets, both ranging from the physical and non-physical domains, and whose level of violence may vary upon circumstances. So core things that are new is there's a state. ICTs are aimed at immediate disruption or control of the enemy's resources. It's waged within the informational environment. Some of the targets and some of the people doing the targeting are physical, some are non-physical, and it can be very violent or less violent.